Wearden, send Lowerhouse to save the house. Come on, the house!
Hello everyone and welcome to Lowerhouse Cricket Club's podcast, the Housecast. Well, this is going to be a bit different this evening. Things have happened at weekend that we need to discuss, and we need to properly get into the nitty-gritty of the results. The rained off game, getting beat in semi and then beating a great side at Darwen. So without further ado, we've got quite a few on tonight. Hiya Gaz.
Hi Jez, you alright?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Gavin, how are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you, Jez.
Good, dude. You okay?
Sam, mate, yeah, very good.
John Martin?
Terrific. Lovely.
That's good, that's good. We've got a guest on tonight who's, I think I can probably describe him as an expert witness that we can maybe bring into the fold in the as the podcast unravels itself. So we can get this lad in sooner rather than later. I'm going to go straight into what I want to talk about. It might be a bit selfish, but I think we need to get it out there. The game on Saturday, a really good, interesting game to watch as a spectator. I think we played exceptionally well, our first team, and nothing seemed to go for us. I think that's just a quick, fair assessment. What I want to do, certainly for the first 5 minutes of this podcast, is try and dissect around the Duckworth-Lewis scores and what really happened. For those who weren't there or haven't heard, which I can't believe is anyone that's listening to this, we batted first after winning the toss. An exceptional end to the innings with Toxie and Frankie getting a partnership of 99. Both of them not out, getting our score up to 189 for 6 off 34 overs. I can feel the tension now. The interval is it comes into play. It's worth saying there's at least a couple of rain breaks. We are massively on top. The momentum's with us. So just remember 189 for 6. And then on the scoreboard, Burnley need to chase 173. There's probably 200 people watching, maybe a few more. And the gasps and disbelieving faces around the ground was a joy to behold. Now, for me, we've had plenty of chats about it, online and on WhatsApps with Gary and Blaise and other people. I get it now as to what happened. But I'd just like to throw it out there, not for you, Joe Martin, because you're a player who wants to leave you a little bit independent. Just want to throw it out there of, certainly, Gav, you were watching, and so were you, dude. So, Gav, what is your, paragraph around what happened during that interval?
Well, it just felt unjust, really. Like you say, Frankie and Toxie, they rallied really well. And, the key word there were initiative. We walked off, the players walked off there and you thought, we've gone from trying to get a decent score to going past a good score to getting what we thought were, an excellent score. Duckworth-Lewis goes down. And I've never seen, I don't think I've seen that before. And it just felt terribly unjust. You felt like, we weren't getting the rewards that we should have done for the mid-innings comeback, really. And if Frankie and Toxie hadn't batted out of the skins, bloody hell, it had been over before the 6:30.
But I think that's the point, Gav, that because we were 40 odd for 4, I think 47 for 4, and that's after the second rain break. What I'm thinking Lewis and Duckworth did, and when they put the stats together, is that we were highly likely to be 60 for 8 after 20 or 30 overs. I don't get it, but there was a lot of anger in the club. Dude, how did you find it when you were watching it live?
I agree with Gav. I was expecting the score to go up because we'd suffered interruptions in our innings, because that is what normally happens. That's all I've ever seen any Duckworth-Lewis adjustment make in previous games, is the score if you lose overs in the first innings, your score gets adjusted upwards, not downwards. I struggle to understand it. Jez obviously has since explained it to me. I still, I get the rationale, but what I can't understand is it makes an assumption based on where we were at 40 for 4, we were going to lose more wickets. Yeah, at 34 overs, we're not been bowled out. And we went a period of 16 overs without losing a wicket. So why can't it factor, if it's factoring in where we were after 10 overs, why is it not factored in where we were after 34 overs?
Good questions.
You know,
And I know it obviously doesn't, and it's not ever going to make allowances for the strength of your batting lineup. That obviously that's nonsensical, but we're always going to come a cropper of that because we've got an incredibly strong and long batting lineup. Whereas I think what you were saying, Jez, the assumptions that are made over, the bank of data that it's got, all the teams are not going to have a centurion batting at number 11, are they? Or an ex-professional batting at number 6, or a lad who's got 500 league runs batting at number 9 or 10. So we're always going to get robbed, of course, but it still feels incredibly harsh, and it feels like some of the assumptions that were made were solely after that first period where we were 40 for 4, but nothing was taken into account for the miraculous recovery that we made.
Yeah, I love it. Gary, I know you were far afield, but I've played with you a long time. You like studying stuff like this. Have you had a look at it or managed to get you understand it at all?
Concur with what people have said around the reset target odd at a first glance. And I think to add to what's been said, it seems to be around the score. It doesn't because the bowlers, whilst the bowlers they get a reduced amount of overs they can bowl, there doesn't seem to be any adjustment one way or the other to them, if you know what I mean, in the sense of are we saying that because somebody couldn't bowl 10 overs, therefore they would have scored, we would have scored less, or therefore our target is reduced accordingly. And I know that's not part of the logic that's built into it, but it is all around the batting innings at the time and whatever projections, whatever assumptions, calculations are built in to adjust that for a second innings. And the assumption can only be that there's not going to be any more rain breaks, that the conditions are then only getting better or whatever, or at best staying the same. So there's so many variables. We'll screw ourselves into the ground. But yeah, an odd one. Not seen it before like that at all. You sometimes get it where if there's a break right at the very end of the innings and you think, oh, maybe that should have been adjusted a bit further up. It only went up a little bit. They've gone into the last 5 overs with 3 wickets down, and lost like 2 or 3 of those overs. And you puzzle why they've only added a couple of runs on or something like. You see that sometimes, but never not go down through the, like you say, 16. What was it? Nearly 20 overs. Uninterrupted after that. So yeah, bizarre.
Yeah, it was. I mean, interesting, Gary. You made a couple of points there. I'd not even thought about how many overs the bowlers could or couldn't bowl. Someone could have bowled, probably over what we could have bowled in the end, but without putting too much pressure. And I'm sorry, Joe Martin, I'm not coming to you. I hope that's okay. We can chat to you afterwards about it. But we've got a guru on. We've got an expert who is probably, the best, if not one of the best scorers in the league. He does run courses around play cricket, which, for those who aren't aware, is the system that is used on the computerized system, which works great. That's where we get all the scores in extremely quickly, and hopefully is going to help us to understand this quandary. Stuart Wearden, how are you doing, Stuart?
Evening, guys. Yeah, not bad yourselves. After a controversial weekend, shall we say?
I know, cracky. I felt for you, and people maybe on this call or elsewhere might feel that I might have ordered saying I felt for the umpires. But Stuart, tell us not so much going into the detail of how it works, just
Yeah.
talk around the game on Saturday first. And is this something you could foresee, or was it as big a shock to you as it was to us? Just talk us through the game, as it progressed.
Well, we had one rain break, didn't we? But we didn't lose any overs because they literally just walked sort of off the field and come back. So we're losing no overs. There was no suspension put in because you can't lose overs. So there was a 2-minute break, I believe. And then the second one, they went off like a couple of balls later, didn't they? I think Selby got out at that point.
Yeah.
And they went off for a length of time. That 2-minute break was added on to the time that they were off anyway. So then we got the calculation of the overs that we're missing. And then obviously they come back on and then went off again, which was about 50 minutes off the top of my head.
Okay.
So that also went in as well as the number of overs that they lost. To be honest, I didn't think anything of the score adjusting for Burnley in terms of at the interval. Maybe an odd run here, an odd run there might have changed. Didn't really think too much about it, to be honest. And then as I'm walking back on the radio, I think it was Ian Lawrence, the umpire, went, Joe, we've got 173. What have you got? I said, well, I'll go and have a look in a minute when I get back to the score box. Sure enough, when I pressed next innings, it come up with DLS has changed Burnley's target to 173. And the moment it popped, I did that, and it popped up on the big screen on the scoreboards. That's when the flood of everybody started inquiring what the heck's going on here.
And I guess that's when you have to get your tin hat on and try and explain or justify it. Can you briefly, Stuart, just explain what you put into this system? It's obviously a computerized system on an app or on your laptop, and you put in the minutes that have been lost. Is that right?
No, well, the umpires will tell you how many overs you've lost.
Okay.
So you click on overs remaining.
Yeah.
So I think for one of them we'd lost 9 overs. So then you reduce that to a 41 over game.
Yeah.
As an interval break, and then when you get the next one, then you take another. Let's say it was another 6 overs off. No, it was more, wasn't it? Which then became a 34 over game.
Yeah.
And then it tells you how many overs and balls you've got left after that. Literally, I mean, let's be honest, Duckworth-Lewis confuses us all. I don't understand how they work it all out. I think Duckworth-Lewis and Stern are probably about the only 3 people in the cricket fraternity and outside of that actually understand what they've done.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end of the game, you click on next innings. At the end of the innings, you click on next innings, and it changes the screen to score the second innings, and it tells you what the target is. So literally, that's about it. The umpires have an app that they use, and they put the scoring that Lowerhouse had got. They also add in the rain breaks at what over point it was and what the score was at that point. And that's how they got to 173. And it's a case of when umpires and the scorer agree that we've all got the same, and that's what you go with. So and then I had a flood of people running into the scorebox, Frankie and Ben and a few others. By the sounds of it, after the game, at the interval when it had come up, they were all sat outside on the phones trying to work it all out as well. So the players weren't happy at the interval when they'd seen it in front of the umpires. So
I mean,
I'll be honest, I was shocked with the 16 run difference. I probably, looking at it, might have expected maybe I'm going for maybe 180, maybe 183, maybe. So, but not 16. It was a big jump, that.
Just okay then, Stuart. And it's interesting. I don't. This is sounding all doom and gloom, and we're not giving any credit to the quality of cricket that was played, and also congratulating Burnley for going out there and getting the runs. It was a target. They got them in the 34 overs, and who knows if the target had been 190, they might have got them. They might have adapted slightly. So congratulations to them for doing it. But I don't think we should move away from this topic. Have you known it before? You said then, I expected it to be about 180, around that margin. I've got to be honest, I've never known it where it's been less than the first innings score. Have you known that before? Or have you, not necessarily with Lowerhouse, with other games?
Yeah, when you look across the Lancs League, recently, Lancs League play cricket, you might see 1 or 2 where they've a lower target than the other side have got. So I've noticed it on there a few times. Interestingly, though, the other semi-final was also the same. In that Green Mount were 145 all out of 44 overs. And Bottom only needed 142 to knock off from 46 overs. and they finished on 1-4-4. So the same thing happened in the other semi-final as well.
Right, I didn't even notice that. I didn't notice that. And I wonder if there was as much malarkey going on there as there was at the West End.
Well, maybe not, because it was only a matter of a couple of runs and not a great big chunk of 16, was it? But
yeah,
But like you said there, congratulations to Burnley. They're through there. I'm sure, as we'd all say, if the boot was on the other foot, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and we'd all be celebrating, and it'd be Burnley that'd be having this conversation. So
yeah, absolutely. And I do think that I want to keep going with this point and labour it, because there was so much in the club about it after the game, so many different thoughts and opinions, and people gobbing off about what they thought were right and what wasn't right, and this is not right, and even the Burnley players didn't agree with it. It didn't matter. It's a formula that is there that the league have agreed to adopt. Whether it's right for league cricket or not, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure.
It's understandable that, though, Jez. That kind of reaction in that set of circumstances is completely understandable.
Yeah, of course it is. And I've no issues with that. But I want to come on to the momentum again. I keep going on about momentum in every game, in every podcast we're doing. It bores me to death as well. But I do want to come on to that, and just to see how we all feel of that, how that changed. Joe Martin, you've listened to everything that's gone on here. I know you're a measured sort of man. I know you'll have considered it since Saturday, and after a great win on Sunday. What's your input to the conversations we've had so far, and what Stuart's been saying?
So welcome, Stuart, firstly. Excellent. Yes, I'd agree with Jez. I think you're the best scorer in the league, by far, especially with some recent difficulties with the scoreboard. So doing a fantastic job. I'd like to think of myself as a pretty fair person. I like to win, pretty competitive. But if we lose a game and we lose fairly, then that's all right. There was just something about the game on Saturday where you think that's not quite how cricket should be. For a few different reasons, and for some of the reasons I can't quite, I'm probably not allowed to get into. But yeah, it just doesn't really seem very fair that you've kind of scored some runs for them to say, well done, but you shouldn't have scored that many, so therefore we're going to take them off. So it's very, very disappointing, and still quite raw, actually. Kind of like mildly unbelievable, the kind of circumstances that played out on Saturday, and as people have said, still doesn't really make sense. But they're the rules that we play with. I would probably argue that there is obviously it's that Duckworth-Lewis-Stern is something that's adopted by probably all the major cricket league, amateur cricket leagues across the country. But I wonder if there is actually an amateur equivalent that might be worth developing, actually. And this will sound very bitter, right? Because it sounds like we're playing the victim, because we've come out on the wrong end of a result. But there's always capacity to make things better, and therefore it might take something like this to change it. And Stuart said if we'd have won, we'd probably be talking about something else, or might be recording later in the week, Jez. But so I think that's my kind of assessment of it, is that it didn't seem a fair game, to be honest with you. But
okay,
you can do.
And that is, I think you're speaking there for a lot of the players and the way the players were feeling. And I'll add to that as well. And Stuart, if you don't mind, I'm going to come back to you in a minute around some other formulas that I'm aware that you've looked at and worked out. But without getting too boring with that, let me just throw this into you, Joe. A lot of things went against us in Mother Cricket Land. Ben's run out, for people who didn't actually see it. Ben's, I'm not sure. Well, I don't think I've ever seen it before. So a bowler bowls the ball. Burnley have got too many fielders outside the 25-metre circle, so it is called a no ball. The umpires signal that it is a free hit. Johnny Whitehead smacks it back as hard as he can, and Fergus Bailey gets a hand or something on it and runs Ben out, backing up. That's quite rare. That's rare. On top of that, we've got the, I think I can comment on it, Joe, really difficult conditions for the umpires, whether the rain's on and it's off. The outfield is looking dodgier and dodgier, and they make the decision to come on the field and our pros out with a catch that is like plucking apples out of a tree.
It was a very good catch. It was a very good catch.
It was. Yeah, it was a great catch, just one-handed, and then they go off for rain. You know, that again is circumstances which are probably once every decade. Ben's run-out's probably as much, if not a bit further, and they all happen in one game, which makes it, for me, you know, absolutely remarkable. A lot of people were using the word luck, and a lot of people were saying, you know, we've been absolutely robbed when we've been so unlucky. But I would just like to remind some of those people, there's a really good chance we won the 2004 Worsley Cup on the back of something similar when Ben ran out.
Yeah, of course.
Barry Knowles for 80 yard and who looked set. So that happens in cricket. And I know you lads can cope with that. Stuart, you have done a few calculations around if this had happened, if that had happened, which I know is hypothetical, but it might be worth just mentioning it for the people who are listening to maybe understand a bit more.
No, I just did one really, just to play around with it a little bit. So, I mean, to be honest, when the game had finished, the one thing that I thought had really done it is losing 4 wickets in 10 overs. Because theoretically, you know, that thing could have, if Burnley weren't disturbed from the ball in, they're on a roll, it could have been 18-20 overs, couldn't it? Quite, you know, loads of averages there. Similarly, if we were batting and we're under for nothing after 10 overs, we could have been 200 for nothing after 20 overs. So, you know, it can swing both ways. But so basically, I think it was being 4 wickets down. So I played around with the app. I got the app up and put in the targets where we were. So the first rain break was 10.4 overs done, and we were 47 runs. I then changed it to 1 wicket loss. So then we had 30.2 overs remaining. I then put the second suspension in, which was at 11.5 overs, and we were 50 runs. Wickets lost 2, and overs remaining after suspension, so it was 22.1 to go. Obviously, I put 189 in off the 34 overs that we had, and that would have given the batting team, Burnley, of 34 overs, 196. It really just proves that it was the loss of those 4 in 10 overs that did us.
Yeah. So let me just recap that. If we'd have only been 1 down when we were 4 down,
yeah,
and then 2 down at the second interval,
yeah,
Burnley would have needed 196.
Yeah. Just as a play around I were doing yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That is quite remarkable. So 23 runs were knocked off their score because we were 3 wickets. You put in 3 wickets less, and then 2 wickets less, which I think goes. I've got it in my head of how it's worked out, whether it's right or wrong. I've got it in my head that, you know, the calculations are worked out. As Duke said early on, your number 6 batter is not going to be as good as your number 3. And that is, you know, what I think they're trying to say. Duke, what's your thoughts on those little calculations there?
I'm not changing my mind. I understand the calculation and I understand the way that it's worked out, but I think in our specific set of circumstances, it's unfair. I'm obviously, you know, I'm not saying that the whole thing is unfair, but in our specific circumstances with our batting lineup in this particular game, I can't see how losing 16 runs because of a hypothetical theory that we would have lost more wickets in that period when we were only 7 down at the close. It still just doesn't feel right to me. But I understand the calculation. I understand the logic behind it.
Gav, what about you?
Similar to Joe, I'm not changing my mind really. Again, you know, Stuart's been great there with his explanations. You know, we talked about it after the game and things like that. But you know, we're being penalised for scoring runs. It just doesn't seem right.
No, you're not, Gav. No. We were being penalised for losing wickets.
For losing wickets, yeah, I know. But like you say, with the batting lineup that we have, at the end of the day, you know, Francois and Toxe, you know, they might not be like Joe's saying, an average number 8 or a number 7 or a number 6. And I just feel we're being penalised for being a good side. And I understand it's the rules. I understand it was the rules for every team before we started. I just don't think it reflects what all our eyes saw. And that's not to take anything away from Burnley in a derby in the semi-final. Fair play to them. However, it just feels wrong.
I think we are in danger of sounding very sour, aren't we?
We are, but we're allowed to be sour.
We are.
And frustrated, Joe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not the BBC, is it? You know what I mean? It's Lowerhouse Podcast, and we've just got beaten semi-final with Burnley. We're allowed to be miffed.
But we don't want to just blame it all on Duckworth-Lewis.
No, absolutely not.
We're not the BBC. I love it, Gav. I love it.
Who else can we blame it on?
What's that?
Who else can we blame it on then? We can take some votes if you want.
Just a couple of observations on what's been said. You're right, Joe. Everybody's playing using that. And if it'd been the other way around and the score, it wouldn't have been calculated any different just because it were Burnley. If they'd have got 100 if they'd have had the same innings, and I'm sure and I'm convinced if that score had gone up at the interval as being say 194 to Chase, nobody would have batted an eyelid because I think everybody would have felt that would have been about right. That's what they were expecting.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me, where Joe, you were talking about a professional version, an amateur version, is it doesn't matter what version it is. If it's not understandable or there's no mechanical way of replicating that calculation outside of a computer, then it's always going to be open to criticism and people not understanding it. And I'm not saying anybody's brighter than anybody else, because if it's that type of thing, and that's why, like football in VAR, why they've made everything, trying to make everything as transparent as possible with the images, with the commentary, with the ref's explanation and things like that, because that's the danger. If it's just a decision taken out of sight and get on with it, then we end up having a podcast like this.
Transparency is the one, in it. That's that you just mentioned there, and there's no transparency with how this is calculated. You're right. You can only do it if you've got access to the software, whether that's an app on your phone or on Stuart's laptop. And you spit the numbers in, and it gives you a number out. It doesn't. You've got no idea how it's been arrived at.
Yeah, there should be some narrative.
Said that earlier.
Yeah, there should be some narrative around it.
Yeah. No, I think we'll all agree with that. It is so difficult. The amount of spectators and players and second-team players that were just continually couldn't. I ended up comfortable with it because of that's the rules. That's what we play with. But clearly, some people are still struggling to get their head around it. I mean, it's fair to say, and again, fair to Burnley, that their opening batters were speaking to Ben and they couldn't get their head around it. They were looking, thinking, shit, what's happening here? How on earth has that worked out? And then there's the issue of some people thinking that Stuart Wearden's messed it up. The two umpires have messed up the calculation. And then the game goes ahead and Burnley win by, a real narrow margin, even narrower than it was. But then they work out the calculations were all wrong, that the result would still stand that Burnley won. So that was causing mayhem in the middle of the second innings as well. So it was...
Dooch, can you remember the game at Church in 2011? I can,
yeah.
Where
I remember it well.
We were playing. I think this was before DLS. I think this was the old Lancashire League adjustment calculation.
75% of the difference.
Yeah. And we were playing. We'd got obviously a certain amount of runs. Church were batting, then it rained. And then it stopped raining before the cut-off, and they were calculating what the score should be, but they couldn't work it out. They couldn't work it out. So
I think Jane was involved, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Pot was involved.
So they came into the change room and said, "We can't work it out. So what we'll do is we'll go out, we'll play the last 2 overs, and then we'll try and work it out at the end to see who won."
Oh no! What did you say there, dude? It wasn't this Stuart that were there.
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't Super Stuart Wearden. It was his predecessor, Stu Gaynor. And what happened after that was, obviously, that suggestion was immediately sort of laughed out the building. By the time they'd agreed what the total was, we ran out of time and we won the game. Yeah. We never ended up going back on.
Well,
I think the umpire retired shortly after that, didn't he?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Oh.
He's a nice chap.
Yeah.
And in the Burnley game, let's be honest, they won with an over to spare, and it took Tom Lawson to come in and smack it around a little bit because it looked like they were well adrift. I dipped off for 20 minutes or so, came back on, and I think there was like maybe 5 overs to go. I thought, we got this in the bag. Hockey looked like he were pissing around for some red ink or something, and then Tom Lawson obviously got fed up and saw it through. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing I would say, Jez, actually, is that chase 173 in 34 overs is also a good effort, So
it is. Yeah.
They batted well, and who knows, right? Even if the score stayed the same and it was 189, and then there's obviously an over left, we'd finished on 33 overs, 1 over left. They might have chased those down, right? Obviously we back ourselves to defend that in the last over, but they could have chased it down. So Burnley battered really well to give them.
I think Kaz Shaw's was the crucial
Yeah, absolutely,
in the whole game, and he chanced his arm, and he did again. I know Jez don't want me to say he got lucky, but he did get lucky. He hit some balls up in the air, and some balls just fell short of fielders. But his was the crucial innings for me because it got them ahead of the rate, and that means that Oki can go about his business in his usual manner, and he doesn't have to try and score quicker than he's capable of doing. So I thought Kaz Shaw's innings was the one that took it away from us a little bit. Not saying that I didn't fancy us after that. I did. I thought we were going to win probably right up until there was maybe 6-7 overs to go. I was stood with Jez and Matt, and we looked at the scoreboard and went, "We're probably going to get beat here unless we take some wickets quickly." Yeah. But up until that point, I fancied us. But looking back, I think Kaz's knock was the sort of the game changer. You had that opening partnership onto the 17 runs that the boost that they got with DLS, and their opening partnership and their first 10 overs was very good.
I agree 100%, and I do like that when crikey, you deserve a little bit of luck if you go out and play like that. I do think it does change the game. But again, please let me talk about momentum. It is so important in cricket, and I didn't realise it when I played as much as I do now. That the way Toxic and Frankie battered. Burnley were down on the haunches. We were getting runs everywhere. The last over was absolutely outstanding. We came off cock-a-hoot. They came off really dragging the heels, and I'm convinced without the. Forget the DLS. If that's nowhere involved, we'd have walked it, winning by 50 or 60. But all of a sudden, it just flips because of the circumstances. Be honest, Joe Martin, in the dressing room, and I know how I would feel, and it wouldn't be any different. But how difficult was it then to get yourself up for going out for?
I honestly don't think it was. I don't think it was difficult. It wasn't difficult to get up for the game. I think you certainly feel hard done to, but it's a Worsley Cup semi-final for your club.
Yeah.
And that drives you on to try and win the game. However you try and win it. Were we happy? No, not really. But it didn't. I don't think it altered how we went about it or anything like that.
There was no strain, Joe. But how did we sort of generally bowl and field compare with our recent standards?
Yeah, I honestly don't think we got a lot wrong. We didn't. There was no. You come off some games, don't you, Gary? You played a long time. You come off some games and you think we were nowhere near there. We didn't deserve to win. We didn't feel well. We didn't. We missed fielding balls. We were dropping catches, all sorts. Whereas there was probably a couple of chances that went up, but they were tough, really tough chances, and people did really well to get there, and had a really good effort. But people were still stopping, big diving stops on the boundary edge. Took the other catches when they came, when chances came. So I don't think I don't know what everybody else was, what everybody else thinks, but I don't think our standards were any different to before. I think we applied ourselves really well. Yeah.
I agree, Joe. I don't think you could have done a lot more than what you did. You played it tough and hard, and the conditions are poor as well. We've all played in that where the outfield's damp, the balls obviously gets wet, it swells up or it goes out of shape or whatever, and the wind and everything else that's there. So I think let's leave the DLS to one side. We really congratulate Burnley for the win. Good on them. I do honestly believe that we got the rough end of the stick, but that will come back. That is swings and roundabouts in all forms of cricket. Big question from me, Joe, and I know you never get involved in any major decisions or anything, but thoughts around batting first?
My answer to it is we scored 190 in 34 overs.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah, good answer. And we will never know if it changed anything different. I do just sometimes look and wonder if, is it, where that we set and there is no flexibility at all. If that is the case, great. And you stick to your plans and you do everything that's there. I'm probably being a little bit, a bit of a cheeky rascal in asking it. But I think, people do ask those sorts of questions and it's good to, your answer is right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I walk around a lot and on Saturday we were pushing the covers on quite a few times, whilst it rained and whatever. And probably the first two intervals, quite a few people came up to ask me and said, what's the thinking behind batting first? And I was like, well, what we back ourselves to do, we think we can bat people out on the end. And then when I was walking up for tea, people said, well, we didn't think that was going to happen. And I'm like, well,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding with it. It's a very narrow defeat with a lot of things going against us. But you're right. That if that's the strategy and that's the plan, then you've got to stick to it. So great effort. Is there anything else from anyone else around the cup game before we just go into the other two games that the first team played and also the second 11 game?
I've just got a very quick thing. You mentioned them briefly, but I just wanted to big them up a little bit. Toxie and Francois, I thought for the last 45 minutes of our innings were absolutely superb. And I know I've given Francois loads of stick on this podcast, and he deserves it. But I've never seen him as pumped when he was coming off at the end of the innings. Toxie as well. I mean, that was a proper gem of an innings that Toxie played. And it's a shame that it didn't really count for anything because obviously we got beat. But I thought that last sort of 45 minutes to an hour of our innings was as good in a big game as good as I've seen for a while. I thought it was superb.
Yeah, they didn't. Toxie looked very settled, didn't he? He didn't look like he was going to be giving anything away. Frankie obviously is a top quality player and can pace his innings. Yeah, but they were outstanding together. So caps off to them. The Friday night T20, for those who aren't aware, was rained off. That was Rammy at home, and that's been replayed this Friday. So get yourselves down there and support the lad. The weather looks good to get us through to the finals of that after the disappointment of Saturday. I'll just jump into the seconds. Bit of a real shame. Played Greenmount at home, and I don't think we got as many runs as we really should have done. 139 all out. Watched bits of it on the live stream, and Greenmount knocked them off. So that's the first defeat in 12 games for the second 11. Did anyone go down? Gav, were you down there at all?
No, I didn't get down on Sunday, unfortunately. So I was just sort of following it on Play Cricket. Obviously, Kings has got 40 odd antes, top scored with 46. Det Metcalf 19 and Will 18. And it's like a decent day for Kings, to be fair. He's got 4 for 29 off 10 as well, hasn't he? So he's played well. And Ollie chipped in with 2 for 37 off 12. So that's a decent item for Ollie as well, isn't it? But so you can't win him every week, and there's still a million points in front, aren't they, at top of the league? Yeah.
And they got him 8 down, and it would appear to be a close, if not controversial game. But a decent enough performance from them, and let's hope they bounce back from that. Joe Martin, again, a quality performance yesterday. It was, weren't it? It was Sunday. Away at Darwen, a difficult place to go and play. A good side who know their conditions probably as well, if not better than anyone else in the league, and adapt to those conditions. Quite windy, quite a blustery day, Joe. How did that go They won the toss and put us in. Started off all right. Was it as difficult as it looked with the conditions, with the wind and the threat of rain?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those days where it always looked like it was going to rain, but never did. It just seemed to keep passing by. So you always had kind of one eye on the weather to make sure to see where you are at 20 overs, and speed up, or do you need to slow the game down? So yeah, I think in terms of us batting first, we had a really good start. Ben was batting well. He was unfortunate to run out. And then, but Johnny, Henry, Francois batted well again, and Salpy batted well. So when you look at the scorecard, it was a really good team effort to get to 2-1-3. Charlie Gansler came in and batted well, and there was no one standout player, I don't think, that particularly took the game away from them. But I think as a collective batting unit, I think we did really well, and good plans in place.
And again, I think you look at the way Johnny was batting again, getting 45. That's his 5,000 runs now in the Lancashire League.
Oh, fantastic!
Johnny Whitehead, which is a great performance. And again, Henry held things together a little bit. He faced a lot of balls there, but you need that in those conditions to set it up for. Tom run a ball, Frankie run a ball, Charlie Ganser run a ball. The last 3 or 4 batters there getting to a run a ball. I did think they looked set though, Joe, with the pro and a couple of their amateurs, and they seem to be getting not behind the run rate, but never too far behind, and then they'd get a boundary. Was that concerning?
So I don't think they were ever above the rate for the whole inning. But as you say, they're always there or thereabouts. And when we would just get ahead, as you say, they would hit a boundary or something would happen. I think that concern isn't the word, because I think that if you take the game long enough, I think that we always have a chance. We've got a lot of bowling options. So Francois getting the pro out, it was a fantastic brilliant catch by Dan, towards the boundary, and it was quite a high ball, and it's quite a difficult ground to navigate, Darwen, because it's on a massive hill. So it was a great catch, and then it. I don't know. It was an interesting game to watch. I think, Dooch, you were there, weren't it? It kind of ebbed and flowed, going in both directions, where there'd be small partnerships by Darwen, and then we'd take a couple of wickets and so on before we probably got them 5 or 6 down, and then put the pressure on.
Yeah, it was a weird one, because what you alluded to there about their pro going well, he did play well, but it was like he scored his runs in like clusters.
Yeah.
He'd go a long time without really looking like it was easy to bat on, and then he just smacked 2 over at wall.
Yeah.
So that gave me the impression that the underlying view of the track was it wasn't that easy to bat on, particularly when the lad at the other end was, absolutely chewing dot balls up for fun. He had a bit of a flurry towards the end of his innings to make his final score look respectable. But at one stage, I think it's something like 15 off 80 balls or something like that, according to the big scoreboard. So it didn't look like it was easy to score on. So that always gave me the impression that if we could get the pro out and maybe 1 or 2 others, we would be fairly comfortable. We did have a few more scares after that. The guy who came in at number 4 did crash a few and sort of give the impression that he was going to go on and hurt us. But because we'd got such a good score, that always gives you a little bit of wriggle room, to cope with our partnership or, our cameo, and eventually our class, the class of our bowling attack sort of told really. And once we got a couple of wickets, we really screwed him into the ground.
I mean, Toxie bowled extremely well.
Oh, he was great again, yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Really, really brilliant. And obviously Francois making a comeback with the ball as well.
Hawk as well. Let's shout out Hawk.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't get any wickets, but crikey, beat
7 overs for 15.
Yeah.
He was spot on. Really, really good.
Really.
Yeah, I think we underestimate, don't we? And you look at Toxie, and how Joe's playing this year, and Frankie coming back. It's that. It's that hunger that they want to play. And I think this game, whereas myself and Gary have always been, if you starve them of the runs, you will get you will get the results at the end of it. I think this was more knowing we were going to get the wickets. The top 4 or 5 players are good batters, but once you get them 3, 4, 5 down, then it's a big ask to score at 4 and over off our bowling lineup. Certainly in those conditions. Again, it's worth mentioning here, if you don't mind, Joe. I know I'm coming back to you a lot for this. Bit of an injury for the pro. What can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, it seems he's done something to his hamstring. He was chasing a ball into the covers off his bowling. Just felt something got. I think if I'd not dropped the catch the couple of balls before, he might have probably wouldn't have had to chase it. To be honest with you, but he I'm not quite sure what he's done or kind of timelines or anything like that. But it was on his hamstring.
So let's hope it's nothing too drastic, and I'm sure he'll be getting the treatment that he needs and getting back to us. Gary, any thoughts on that? I mean, I know it's we really didn't play against the likes of Darwen, but they are a tough side to play against. Any observations?
Yeah, they seem a bit like Bacup of Yore, don't they? I mean, they were pretty similar and probably not a dissimilar type of ground and high up and sloping, etc. And a lot of local lads who knew it inside out. No, they had wood on us for quite a while, didn't they? But I think we've turned that corner a bit in the last 2 or 3 years and got some good results there. Just one for Joe, really. Joe Martin, have you caught Ben yet?
I've caught Ben.
Yeah, after that run out.
Oh, he took off, didn't he? Yeah, he took off
on the stream. It was like the end of a Benny Hill episode. You just saw him get up and leg it down the hill, and everybody else were chasing him and zigzagging around the screen. It was hilarious.
Well, there's a bit of context. There's a bit of context to that because obviously Ben was given run out in the first innings, and he didn't think he was out.
Oh, okay.
And I think that batter who Ben ran out might have given him some gentle encouragement when he was on his way off. So then when Ben's had the direct hit run out, I think I felt a bit of vindication.
A brilliant throw as well because he was on the ground.
He was on his knees, wasn't he?
Yeah, like a misfield behind him and then spun while he sat on his arse. And nice one.
Yeah, what goes around comes around, I guess. We did put out on social media for some questions to come in. So that bring me on, Joe. You had a bit of, I think is the right word, a collision? Would that be about the right word? What happened there?
Yeah, no, it was, ball got hit into mid-wicket and Ben picked it up, threw it back in, and then as I was diving, I fell into the batter, into Sam Painter. As I've obviously I'm not really strong or big individual. Yeah, I've kind of bounced off him, but he's fallen on me and his bat's landed on my hand. The ball's gone past, and I've already got quite a bad right hand anyway. I can't strengthen. It was just getting better after I'd hurt it at the start of the year, but now it's hurting again. But I'll be fine. But fair. That's a really good point actually, because fair play to Sam because he refused to run when they were telling him to keep going.
Yeah.
He said, I can't. So that was very, very kind of commendable and kind of restored my faith.
Good sportsmanship. Yeah, exactly. Good sportsmanship. That's what we're after. So we put out there asking for some questions for tonight's podcast. Unfortunately, the only one I can really read out is from Chippy. He said he was sat afar in Poland, just ready to get a flight back here, and he saw you injured, so he had to rush home to get his Allen Knott mitts out, just in case he needed to sit in and come and replace you. Thankfully, you don't. The only other question.
Chippy play again.
Sorry?
I'd love to see Chippy play again.
It could be interesting, that, couldn't it?
I think so.
Definitely, could definitely get a Vets game going.
Yeah,
I tell you what, he'd love it as well. He'd be the first one in it. He'd go and buy all the best gear. He'd get all the best pads and everything. He'd be all over it, proper taking it seriously. So then we had 3 or 4 other points that came in following our request for questions. Unfortunately, none of them were questions. And the only one that were really of any relevance was from a Wanted who said, effing robbed. And I know that's not a question.
Do you get any questions from Jack Sim, Jez, or not?
Just that he wants to know what's the DLS, how the DLS works.
Oh,
I
well,
said,
we've already answered that, haven't we?
yeah, we're going to arrange a full podcast. He can chip away, can't he, Jackson? Okay, hell, he just can just not shut up. But I hope we've answered the questions now. I know that some people still don't accept it and think that it's a weird way of working it. But as I've pointed out, I'm not sure the Rammy Greenmount game were too dissimilar looking at those scores. Maybe not as dramatic because of the way that our innings ended. But again, I don't want to
2 runs, Jez.
say again.
They only lost 2 runs.
Yeah, but they got 2 extra overs.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but they were all out.
How?
They should get deducted.
Yeah, but they didn't get deducted, did they? The side batting second got more overs. Anyway, let's not have pregnant pauses on
Have
it.
anything in Drew Peacock, Joe?
No, I thought I might have heard from him this week,
Yeah.
but I've not had anything. I just refreshed my inbox then, but no, I've not had anything.
Tell you what, it'd be good if we could get some young analysts to work out a system, and how interesting that would be. I mean, maybe Jack and Danny Sim could come up with it. That'd be an interesting title for it.
Danny Sim's a mathematician. Danny's a mathematician.
Yeah, they maybe could come up with it. So I don't think we need to labour anything. We've had a really good discussion there. Stuart, I'm going to come to you in a minute and then just go around the rest of the lads that are on it for some comments. I'm not blowing smoke up your backside, Stuart, but the job you do for the club takes so much pressure off a lot of the committee, the players. It's so difficult if you've not got someone who's as competent as yourself. I do want you to come back on again, if that's all right, just to talk through the systems and trying to encourage, younger or other people to go into the scoring world. So, Stuart, thanks ever so much for coming on. You obviously love doing it. It's good fun. Is it passion, and is it something that you're part of that team?
It's good fun, isn't it? Yeah, you feel part of the first team. The lads are pretty good. I send Ben some stats on that every week, and Paddy when it's the T20s as well. So yeah, but today was a bit of a last minute due to the frailties of Saturday, really. So, but yeah, we'll do a one when we've got a bit more time.
Yeah, definitely. Apologies for that. It was just an idea we had. I thought there was that many people wanting to know what had gone on. I still don't think people will be fully au fait with it, but at least we've tried our best. Stuart, really appreciate you coming on at last minute. Thanks ever so much, and keep that going for as long as you can. It really does help out the squad and the whole club. So I'll go round from Gary to Gav, then to Dooch, and finally to Joe Martin. Gary, thanks for coming on. I know it's a last minute one, this, but I think it's really important that we talk about the serious stuff as well as the more important funny side of cricket. Have you anything you want to add about the way the lads are going? We are 26 points ahead at the moment.
Yeah, the other results fell our way, didn't they, at the weekend, from a league position point of view. And it's like we said, what was the first game we lost? Was it Littleborough? And where we felt maybe we could have won that or something went against us. It's one game. Don't let it affect season. Keep doing what you're doing. Trust in everything. Everybody looks good. Everybody's, contributing. And like somebody said the other day, match winners all round. Just crack on, see it through now to the end of the season. Big push. And let's keep enjoying some wins on a Monday evening.
Here. It's 10 to go, and they've got a good platform there for it, and they're playing well as well. The squad's great. I love that squad the way it is. I think there's a bit of adaptability around it, as was shown, from the slight changes on Saturday. Gav, we're enjoying it, aren't we? In there, it's good to watch. It's good to have some crack and some bants. Have you anything you want to add?
Basically, just the process, and it's a really good atmosphere going down there. The first team and second team are playing good cricket. It's going to be another cracking week. Friday night, let's get down in the sunshine and have a few pints, and and support the lads. Really, that's it from me. Really, just get down and support the lads and trust the process.
Good lad. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's difficult at times, and it does get, it's such good entertainment. It's such good, memories that are being made, even when it was like it was on Saturday. So brilliant. Thanks, Gav. Dooch, anything from you or anything around the team, the way they are behind the scenes, the selection or people's fitnesses or form? Anything you want to impart on us?
No, not particularly, Jez. Obviously, we keep an eye on Dan after coming off injured on Sunday, but everybody else seems clean bill of health. And like I said in previous weeks, it's amazing, isn't it? Two teams are at the top of the league, and all of a sudden everybody's available every week. It's a coincidence, that, isn't it?
I know it is. I was looking at how many, the same team and the same batting order and everything. It's so different than a lot of the games that certainly I played in, and I'm sure Gary, Gav, and Duke are the same. So we'll finish off with our little star. I hope you're all right, Joe. I know you were gutted. I've never, ever, ever seen you like that as you were on Saturday afterwards.
Yeah.
It was good to see. But I've never seen an angry little. Go on, sorry.
It wasn't good to see, Jess, because I like to think of myself as quite reasonable. And as I said at the start, I don't like losing, but I can accept it. But yeah, I just think some things didn't quite go our way, and and I don't like it when things don't seem fair. That's my issue.
Yeah,
but
I understand that.
It, so it's fine.
Yeah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. It was just really weird. We always have a little chat either during the game, walking around, or after the game, and I've never seen a proper angry little wasp that had been in a jar for about 4 hours.
Yeah, you saw my Sheridan come out.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw your Uncle Ian come out there. So
before you go, Joe, just before you go, Joe, tell us about that caught behind appeal off hockey.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't? Just tell us, did he hit it?
Yeah.
Eat it. Did you tell him? Did you give him any words of advice?
No, not at all. No.
No. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It is. It's difficult. It's difficult to stomach. But c'est la vie. That's the way it goes. Mother cricket and all that. We've had our fair share of dramas on Saturday, I think, but they will work themselves out, I'm sure. So if there's nothing else from anyone, we will, another big weekend coming up. So I'd like to think next week we'll podcast again. For any of the old Burnley faithful that said we only pod when we're winning, well, there you go. I know we've whinged our way through it that we were unjust, but at least we've done it, and we'll look forward to doing another one next week and get towards that July draw. So if you want to get in the Lowerhouse draw, don't forget. Just send us a message. We can get you in it quite easily. £5 a month, massive prizes and good crack as we do it. So thanks everyone for listening. And we'll catch up on the... Yes, Joe?
On the Lowerhouse draw, I've had a couple of people that have said that they quite like it when you give us clues about who the winners are and we have to guess who they are.
Okay, we can carry that on.
So, it's a new format. New segment. Guess the winner.
Yeah, we can carry that on, no problem. So we'll do that. So thanks everyone for listening, and keep supporting the club. Get down there, and I'm sure things, if luck does turn, then happy days, because we had some tough luck on Saturday. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you soon.
Send more house to save the house.